Yeah. Casey, could you call the roll, please?
Councilmember Al Forsman?
Here.
Paul Tess?
Here.
Joe Bell?
Here.
Ryan Callen?
Here.
Angela Campbell? Adam Nisky?
Here.
And Marilyn Mercer.
We have a quorum to conduct business. The purpose of our meeting, of the public hearing, excuse me, Truth and Taxation public hearing, is the 2024 proposed budget and Truth and Taxation presentation. Essentially how our levied taxes are going to be spent. So, who is picking this up for us this evening?
I can do that, Mayor.
All right, thank you, Harold.
As much as we've done in years past, presentation is based off of what our proposed levy is and then what the changes have been from the previous year's levy. So we're talking about the total 2024 city tax proposed to all property owners of $2,158,100. Citywide, that's an increase of $61,600 or 2.94% as compared to 2023. Operational expenditures are budgeted to increase to $5,737,500 in 2024, an increase of $290,900 or 5.34% from 2023. Fiscal disparities. This was an issue last year where the fiscal disparities hit all of our tax rate payers within all classifications due to a readjustment of short-term rentals from residential to commercial and then back to residential. I believe that went back to 21-22, and that was a significant impact on taxpayers. This year we did see a moderate increase of fiscal disparities of 20,000. We were fearful that it was going to continue a decline, so it might not look like a lot, but it actually going up was a significant improvement compared to 2023. So that'll be seen as an offset on some of the rising property values for 2024. Taxable net tax capacity increased by $426,000 or 20% to almost $2.5 million. The net tax capacity is used for calculating tax rates after fiscal disparity contribution. This is a big number. Taxable market value for the city of Ely increased by $35 million compared to 2023. This was almost an 18% increase, and this is where, when we had our Board of Appeal and Equalization meeting in April, when residents can come and dispute their property value and have the county tax assessor reevaluate and hopefully look at possible reductions in that market value. But $35 million, I think if we were to look back in time, there probably was never that much of an increase in 1 year, but that is just a symptom of the increase hot real estate market and those property values increasing significantly. Then 2024 property tax statement comparison. I believe we have those in the packets. There you go. You can see if all things remain equal, estimated market value on a $50,000 home because of that large increase in value, but the levies staying relatively stable, with ours being under 3. I believe the county's was under 3. The schools, I believe, stayed pretty stable as well. You could see if the values all remain the same, it would have been a reduction in property taxes across all valuations there in the chart. Now, of course, they increase as value increases. So, we'll go on to the next slide here. City of Ely changes compared to 2023. What is the city property tax used for? General fund, that is for all of the public works, law enforcement, firefighting, all the essential services the citizens come to rely on. You can see the dollar change, $6,500. very, very small change. And I've got to add that all department heads looked really hard, as well as the city councilors and the mayor on the budget committee, on places where we could save, places we could have reductions, because we, just the same as all of the taxpayers, are seeing inflationary increases on everything we do. From all of our supplies, our fuels, our equipment, our, everything has seen an increase, but we've done the best we can this year to try to reduce those impacts. And it also helped that we saw a significant increase in LGA. We'll get to that later, but you can see library fund, cemetery fund, debt service, the debts that the city has on previous capital projects. That small increase is just within the debt schedule. Capital projects, that has pretty much stayed the same year by year. That, as I referenced a little earlier, as far as IRRR funding, we also go to CDBG for additional funding. That's HUD funding, and that's what covers our water and sewer and road infrastructure projects. So with this $650,000 contribution from taxpayers, that's usually matched at least dollar for dollar with other grant funds to get as much infrastructure projects we can at as little impact as we can have on the taxpayers. So that, again, capital projects probably increase on an annual basis of 10%. It's oftentimes even double that of what inflationary rates or the CPI index, yes. So if you defer some of those projects, it's not that it's going to go up 7% the next year, it might be 15%. So that's where we've got a fairly aggressive plan for capital projects, and it'll never end. What we fixed 20 years ago will be redone in 15 years. So you can see that's what's put on the tax levy. Equipment replacement, $190,000 in 23, increased to $200,000 for 24, a $10,000 increase. Much the same. Dump truck that we purchased in 2019 has increased in cost almost 40% in that short amount of time. So those are continuing to rise. We have, and thanks to Chief Marshall last year, we were able to find a couple of used pieces of fire apparatus for the fire department to get us into the current generation of fire equipment at a much greatly reduced price compared to purchasing new. So whenever there is that opportunity that comes, we do take advantage of that any way possible. So again, the total property tax levy boils down to that $61,600 increase at the 2.94. EEDA special levy, that is for the Ely Economic Development Authority, and that is levied by statute. That is a percentage of the market value. So as the market value increased slightly, you can see that increased slightly, $6,700, which helps fund the work of the EEDA as we had went over last week. Changes from 23, we kind of went over that a little bit already. Local government aid budget increase by $258,700. So as you compare what the city receives as LGA and what the city receives for property taxes, you can see LGA is a significant contributor to funding the services provided for the city of Ely. So as we had just spoke a little bit about priorities going forward as far as legislative priorities, local government aid is always one of the top ones for discussion. That was a 10% increase. I can say that was the biggest increase we've seen in the nearly 20 years I've worked with the city. So that was significant, and that's what was able to show the small increase in the levy this year. General fund revenues and expenditures were budgeted to increase that $236,500. One item that we did add, the budget committee and the council did discuss this, is a subsidy to assist the senior center as they're struggling with their operations. So that's included in this budget. Department of Revenue building, it's no secret that building was sold, where we used to provide the building engineering services there. That revenue, which was helped offset some of the expenses in the other city departments for those staff members, that has went away. So that you'll see a reduction there. EEDA, again, special revenue fund, that is what's set by state statute, that 0.01813% or 39,000. Capital projects fund, as we said, we fund 650,000 of that through the levy. The rest of it comes from other funds. You can see for next year it's $794,000, and that includes some improvements on Conan Street, over on 8th, 9th, and 10th Avenue, and also City Hall. We're going to do a tuck pointing project to this building on the exterior stone, with a follow-up project in 2025, hopefully, of additional window replacements. These windows are probably pushing 40 years old. So that's ongoing maintenance and repair on our historic buildings that the city maintains with taxpayers' levied property taxes. You can see that's just kind of broke down there. Also, an increase we got this year during this legislative session was a street maintenance receipt. Our state maintenance receipts is our street infrastructure charge. It's $5 on each utility bill. The second part of this is a small cities assistance fund of $60,000. This has come, some years it does, some years it doesn't. It's typically been, I believe, around $30,000, if I'm not mistaken. During the last legislative session, they put that at $60,000. So what we're hoping is that continues at that level. And actually that's being partially funded by a sales tax now being added on to auto parts. So that may even increase over time. So it's one of those revenues or one of those contributions back from the state that, it doesn't go unnoticed, but it isn't a big newsworthy item, but $60,000 is significant. That covers a big portion of our sidewalk replacement projects in the summer, some of the tree planting that's completed on those capital projects, those sorts of things. Equipment replacement, you can see we increased that by $10,000. That will have to continue to increase over time if we're going to continue to replace equipment without taking out debt. I think everybody knows what interest rates have been doing here over the last couple of years, so we try not to have to take out additional long-term debt for deferred maintenance replacement or deferred capital projects. So that's something that we'll look at over time. And yes, you can see that truck is in a high expense. And just for everybody's information, that truck, it would be to replace a truck we currently have in service that's a 1998. So the vehicles we have, the equipment we have, our public works staff, our mechanic does get as much life out of that equipment as possible. And actually that dump truck it'll replace, we'll continue to have that truck as a spare or as an additional truck. So the estimated levy to fully fund the equipment replacement plan would be up around $250,000. So that's where, as I said, Chief Marshall was able to find some used equipment. That's what we try to do, is try to balance that out the best we can. Pie chart, you can see the larger departments, of course, public safety, street infrastructure, capital outlay, debt service, economic development, culture and recreation. Down at the bottom there, you can see culture and recreation, parks, recreation, library, and then we have a very small, and that's a transfer for the cemetery fund. So the cemetery fund isn't fully self-sustained by burial fees or sale of grave plots. That is supported by the property tax levy as well. You can see the airport on there as well. That's a special revenue fund on an annual basis. It's there's a small contribution to keep the airport sustainable. Sometimes that is capital project expenditure as well. Then revenues by type, you can see as our numbers showed on a previous slide, local government aid was 41.3% of the revenues received. Special EDA levy, property taxes are 31.6%, and then you can see grants and aid, taconite aid, fuel sales at the airport, rents, and we have rents in many city facilities. Street infrastructure maintenance fund, that's that 130,000 we showed on our capital projects list at about 2%. So, and the other is charge for services, licenses, permits, fines, fees, interest, franchise fees, and donations. So that's kind of the quick 10-minute budget. 20 minutes, sorry.
Quizzes will be handed out soon. Especially the gentleman in the back. Go ahead.
One thing that you didn't mention, Harold, that I think needs to be brought up, though, is in our general fund, I want to thank the staff here at City Hall for researching alternative healthcare options when that came through, and the bargaining units for accepting it and approving the change to be able to keep that in line, because that would have been a huge hit on our budget, and for everyone to work together and make that work, I think it's important, and that helped keep that levy where it was at.
Yeah. Thank you, Alan. Yeah, we do budget for what we expect health insurance rates to do, and as everybody knows, things seem to be increasing beyond what you expect. Health insurance was one of those items this year. So we did change plans, we changed companies. It wasn't during a contract year, so the contracts got opened up and all of the bargaining units were open to that that discussion, and it's a $50,000 savings at the end of the day to the city. So significant. So yeah, thanks for pointing that out.
Budget committee, does anybody else have anything they want to say? This is my first time on budget committee, which was eye-opening, but it was a relatively smooth process. So thank you for making it semi-easy on me, even though I think I was late a few times getting there from school. Everybody works hard to make sure it's the dollars work, the numbers work. And, nobody wins. That's, everybody works hard to make sure it's the bottom line. So.
The one thing I wanted to point out again, the work on the budget starts in about April, May is when the budget calendar gets put together. Dan, the assistant treasurer, does a lot of work on putting together proposed budgets, you know, things that are going to impact our budget going forward. And then about July is when the department heads start putting those budgets together. So if there are projects, and this is, I probably sound like a broken record to some committees, but if there are projects or things that committees are interested in, this is the time of year you start talking about them. So say next spring, we can then work to incorporate them into the budget. If it comes in May for next summer, if it's not in the budget, it then takes action by the council to fund those projects, and typically that would have to come out of reserves or a budget adjustment somewhere else. So it's just for everyone to be aware that things start early to make sure that we have them covered within the budget.
And pretty much every board, committee, and commission is a part of the budgetary process. They just maybe don't realize it, but as it gets filtered up and filtered back down again, everyone has their moment to be talked about and to get things happen, to make things happen. Anything else?